Hey everybody. So, did you hear the good news? The internet was saved. A major crisis was averted. The open source community is patting itself on the back, popping champagne, and celebrating a win. Cue to the security influencers tweeting from the standing desk about the power of community and rapid response. It is a beautiful story, really. A feel good hit for the end of the quarter. What was this great victory, you ask? On September 8th, 2 days ago, today, September 10th, a developer named Josh Junin, a guy whose code is woven into the very fabric of the internet, got his account hijacked. In the time it takes to reboot your router, an attacker pushed a malicious update to software packages that are downloaded collectively about 1 billion times a week. Let us pause on that number for a second. 1 billion every week. That is not some niche developer tool. That is the code that builds your bank's website. It builds the app you use to order food. It builds the front end to that multi-billion-dollar DeFi protocol that you think is your ticket to financial freedom. For a few hours, the digital air that nearly every major company and crypto project breathes was poisoned with a slick piece of malware designed to pickpocket crypto wallets. And the grand total stolen, the last time I checked, 66 bucks. Actually, it was around like 400 bucks, $481, but maybe. I don't know if that amount has since grown, but that's what I saw on Twitter, which is barely enough to buy a round of drinks to celebrate the win. So, I mean, it's enough to buy a round of drinks, but it's barely enough to like do much more than like just have maybe a one night, like buy some clothes or something. So everyone from the security experts to the corporate PR teams is breathing a sigh of relief. Do not panic, they say. The chances of you being impacted are virtually zero. They are celebrating because the house did not burn down. What they are conveniently ignoring is that the entire structure is made of gasoline soaked cardboard held together with scotch tape by one guy, and he just dropped the lit match. This autopsy is not about the $66 that were stolen, which is like maybe 400 now. It is about the trillions of dollars of infrastructure that were, for a few hours, held hostage by a single fake email. So this is a terrifying glimpse into the abyss. It is not a win. And everyone is pretending they do not see the monster staring back. So let's put it all on the table. First, you need to understand what's going on. NPM, the node package manager, for anyone not in the weeds. Alexa, stop. All right, sorry, that was my Alexa. Think of it as a massive public warehouse for code. It is the Amazon of software development with two key differences. Everything is free and the entire facility is run by volunteers. There are no security cameras, no background checks, and every time you order a toaster, it comes with 50 other mystery items packed inside the box by strangers. That is NPM, Node Package Manager. That is your software supply chain. When a developer wants to build a website, say the shiny front end for your favorite new crypto exchange, they do not make every single brick from scratch. That would take forever. Instead, they go to the Node Package Manager NPM warehouse and grab pre-made bricks. One brick for coloring text, one for resizing images, one for handling errors. They grab hundreds, even thousands of these little packages and stack them all together, hoping none of them are filled with scorpions. Now meet the central figure, Josh Junin, who goes by QIX. Let's be crystal clear. This is not some intern. This is a guy who is a moderator for Bellingcat, the investigative journalism outfit that takes on Russian intelligence. He has worked at Uber. He has worked at Vercel. He maintains some of the most foundational packages in the world with over 1,800 contributions to open source in the last year alone. This guy is the shed in Skegness that the entire global economy apparently runs on. He is, by any measure, a pro. We expect people like him to be flawless, robotic code custodians 24/7, 365 for free, but they are human. They get tired. They get distracted. They click on the wrong link just like your grandpa. The only difference is when your grandpa does it, he loses his Facebook account. When a guy like Josh Junin does it, the entire digital economy teeters on the brink. And how did the attacker get the keys to this kingdom? Did they use a zero-day exploit, a quantum computer to crack his encryption? No, they sent him a phishing email, a fake, you need to update your 2FA message that looked, in his words, very legitimate. One click, one moment of human error from an overworked, undersupported developer, and it was over. The attacker had control. They had the keys to the warehouse. Then came the weapon. The code they injected was not some brute force ransomware. It was elegant, it was insidious, it is called a crypto clipper. But think of it as a confidence trick. It quietly sits in the background of any website using the infected packages. When you go to make a transaction, sending some Ethereum or USDC, it intercepts it. This is not about hacking the blockchain, it's about hacking your brain. The smart contract on the chain is perfectly secure, waiting for your funds. It is like a flawless bank vault. But the malware hijacks the trusted seller, your web browser, and tricks you into putting your money into the thief's bag instead. It scans the address you are sending to, and then, using something called the Levenstein distance algorithm, it generates a new address that looks almost identical to the real one, but belongs to the thief. They are using algorithmic linguistics to pick your pocket. It is the digital version of a 3-card Monty played at the speed of light with your life savings as the bet. You glance at the confirmation screen. Your brain registers the first few and last few characters of the address. It looks right, you click approve, and your money vanishes into the ether. Irreversible. Irreversible, unrefundable, the perfect crime. And that is why they target crypto. It is the only form of money that is a pure bearer asset with no customer support line to call when you get screwed. So, to recap, a top-tier developer gets phished, 1 billion downloads a week are infected with wallet-draining malware, and the security world's official response is calm down. I read one analyst saying the chances of them being downloaded and shipped into your software in that window of time are very, very small. Another called it a win that should be celebrated because the community spotted it in 15 minutes and got it taken down in a few hours. This is the most insane, willfully ignorant logic I have ever heard. This is a coroner looking at a body with a gunshot wound and declaring the cause of death to be mild lead poisoning because the bullet missed the heart. So the problem is not the amount of money that was stolen, which was about $400+ in that range. The problem is that the gun exists. It is loaded and it is pointed at the head of the entire internet. The payload could have been anything. Let me repeat that. Anything. It could have been code that steals every password you type into your browser. It could have been ransomware that bricked every server that ran the update. It could have been a wiper that silently deleted databases across thousands of companies. But it was not. It was just a simple crypto stealer because that was the path of least resistance to cash. And because the patient survived this time, the doctors are calling it a miracle and a miracle of medicine instead of gross systemic malpractice. The fire chief says, "Do not worry. We put out the small fire in the corner. Just go back into the building made of dynamite and try not to cause any sparks." Patching this one vulnerability does not cure the disease. It is a band-aid on a gaping chest wound. And the Web3 crowd, the champions of do not trust, verify, are the most vulnerable of all because they blindly trust this entire rickety stack of centralized open source code built for the Web2 world they claim to be replacing. The thing is, this morgue is full of bodies with the exact same wounds. This is not a disease. It is a chronic condition we refuse to treat. We are trapped in a cycle of disaster, amnesia, and renewed complacency. We have been ignoring the same cause of death for a decade. Remember the left pad incident back in 2016? One developer, Azure Kokulo, got into a spat with a corporation over the name of one of his packages. They threatened him with lawyers, so in a fit of rage, he unpublished all of his code from NPM. It was a digital temper tantrum. He took his ball and went home, except his ball was an 11-line piece of code called LeftPad that, it turns out, thousands of projects, including frameworks used by Facebook and Netflix, depended on. The internet ground to a halt. The lesson was clear. The entire digital world is a fragile Jenga tower, and its stability depends on the mood of a single unpaid developer. It is fragility by ego. And today we see that the same power, not in an act of protest, but in the hands of a common fisher. Or how about Heartbleed in 2014? A catastrophic bug was found in OpenSSL, the code that handles most of the internet's encryption. For 2 years, the front door key to half the servers on Earth was just lying on the welcome mat. Why? Because this critical piece of global infrastructure was being maintained by a handful of volunteers on a budget of a few $1,000s a year. We built a trillion-dollar mansion on a foundation of rotting wood and wishful thinking. It's fragility by neglect, and today we see that same neglect, not in a cryptographic library, but in the basic operational security of the people who built everything on top of it. Then came Log4Shell in 2021, a vulnerability in a ubiquitous Java logging library, a boring, unsexy piece of code that everyone uses but nobody thinks about, a guest book. And it turned into a skeleton key that opened almost every corporate server on the planet, leading to a global panic. It is fragility by complexity, and today we see that same hidden complexity not in Java, but in the sprawling, invisible dependency tree of every modern website. Ego, neglect, complexity, and now the NPM hack. Fragility by simple human error. These are the four horsemen of the open source apocalypse. The left pad incident, Heartbleed, Log4Shell, and now this. They are all the same story. The autopsies all point to the same pre-existing condition, a complete and utter disconnect between the immense value this open source software provides and the pathetic support we give to the people who build it. So no, this was not a win. It was a warning shot that everyone is pretending was a firework. It was a reminder that the greatest security threat in Web3 is not a 51% attack. It is not a flaw in a smart contract's logic. It is not some super genius cracking cryptography. The single greatest threat is a tired, overworked, underappreciated developer of some tiny, fundamental building block of the internet getting tricked by a fake email on a Monday morning. The entire decentralized future you have been promised is built on the same centralized, brittle human-run foundations as the old web. It relies on GitHub, owned by Microsoft. It relies on NPM, also owned by Microsoft. You are building your revolution on your enemy's land with their tools for free. You raise billions on white papers promising a trustless utopia, and the whole thing can be brought to its knees because one guy who maintains a free text coloring tool had a moment of inattention. You talk about immutable ledgers, but your foundations are mutable. You talk about decentralization, but you have single points of failure everywhere. You talk about a new financial system, but you have built it on the charity of unpaid volunteers. So yeah, go ahead and celebrate a $400 victory. Call it a win for the community. Post your self-congratulatory threads. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as assigned. It is designed to externalize all risk onto a handful of individuals, and every so often one of them breaks. I will be over there prepping the slab. Prepping my laptop for the next event that happens, so we can talk about it here on AlphaLlama. Okay, so everybody, I super hope that you enjoyed that, and I super hope that I was able to bring some kind of value and, just talking about these crypto stuff, like whatever, super entertaining for us and something we can all learn from. I love bringing to everyone here because that is how we all grow. And learning and talking about this stuff, it really gets me excited. So yeah, so this is AlphaLlama, and I'll see you later.